Have you ever had this moment in class where you wanted to take it in one direction, but your students another? Perhaps you want to dig deeper into technique to see that better quality of movement, or maybe you wanted to work on creativity and improvisation, but your students keep asking for the same thing they always received, and you don't feel it's helping them to improve. If this happens to a teacher often, what used to be a work full of joy and passion can lose its meaning. In this video, I want to share with you why I think that happens and what you can do about it. You'll learn how to design classes where your students feel excited and passionate about the same things you want to teach. But before I go further, let me first give you some background information. My experience comes from teaching Lindy, and at our schools, most of our students come from an already busy day of school or work and are looking for something to recharge their energy. They want to have a good time, meet new people, maybe learn a new hobby, and in general enrich their lives. Teachers who have hobby dances as students quickly recognize that enjoyability is an important aspect to get the students to come back to class. Because we recognize their busy day of school and work, we notice that achievability is an important pillar for enjoyment. To cater to this situation, teachers adopt various strategies to make their classes more achievable. For example, we might reduce complexity by simplifying the technique a little bit, or maybe limit the number of basic steps that we're teaching the students, not to increase the complexity. Or sometimes maybe we take an approach where we teach one new element per week, so it's not overwhelming. Other times we might go through hand-holding techniques like counting for them throughout the class, or giving them patterns so they don't have to think about what to dance and just go through the movement. Now, you might be asking yourself, so what's wrong with that? Should I not try to make the classes more achievable? The answer is yes, you should. However, how you make those decisions greatly matters, and it will determine if down the road, if your students are continuously being excited about the things you want to teach or not. Let's take a look at a beginner's experience when they first encounter the dance. A beginner typically comes to class with an open mind. They don't have pre-notions that they use to filter or control their environment to what they think it's supposed to be, but rather take in the information as they're experiencing it. However, this open-mindedness comes at a cost. You see, we carry a lot of anxiety when we first enter this new world. We don't know how our teacher will be. We don't know how our fellow classmates will behave. So we are hyper-vigilant to collect the information, both from the dance, but also the social norms in that community. Soon, however, we put all those information into a box and we close its lid and we give it a label. And this is a good thing. You see, while the lid of the box stays open, we carry a lot of anxiety. We don't know what goes in, we don't know what goes out. We don't know what to expect. But once the box is closed, world order is restored again. Now we feel like we can make an informed decision about the experience. We can say, yes, this experience was for me. I want to do more of it. Or we can say, well, now I know what it is. It's not for me. But if they said yes to it, now they're committed. They can commit more energy to it and want to have more of that experience from you. What's important to understand is that whatever made it into the box before the lid closed will be perceived by your students as important. This includes the concepts and ideas that you presented to the student, the social norms and behaviors that they experience in class and in the community, but also the achievability approaches you took to make the class a better experience for them will make it into the box. This means if you, for example, use simplification as one of those tools to make the class more achievable, but maybe go slightly too far and you simplify to the point where you say, if they eventually want to become advanced dancers, they need to go back and relearn this, learn the technique from ground up the real way, but the harder way. Your students will not carry that into their box. They won't understand that this is just a helping tool to get to the next level. They will carry the oversimplified variation into the box and make it the dance. That becomes the dance from their perspective. Another example is this. If you, for example, value creativity and improvisation, but focus during the first period of your students' experience with you on making it achievable by giving them patterns and counting for them and hand-holding a lot, they won't carry creativity and improvisation into the box. So when you later say, let's be creative, that's an important aspect of the dance, they will treat it as a side exercise at best, but quickly will push you back to give them more patterns. When they committed to the dance, when they made a decision about whether this is for them, they did not make that commitment based on creativity and improvisation. They made it based on the patterns you gave them in the beginning. And if you keep pushing for the creativity and improvisational aspects of it, you'll have a conflict with your students. Based on our experience, we've noticed that it takes about 3 months for students to go from first impression to closing the lid to that box. And whatever information, ideas, moves, values that made it into that box within that first period will be easy for you to work on as a teacher. And whatever that did not, you will need to go through a difficult process of convincing and inspiring before working on it. Now, if you're curious about how we came to this conclusion, I'll place some more information in the video comment section below. Now, I'm not saying that your students need the skills of any of those important aspects within that first 3 months, but they need to be exposed to it so they understand what's important for you and what you will be working on now and in the future. You see, the experience your students have early on is what they use to form a decision. It's almost like an unspoken agreement between you and your students. And if you get them through one type of experience in the early stages, but then feel like you need to shift to another type of experience later on for them to get to the next level, you need to first make a new specific agreement with your students, or you will be met with a lot of resistance and frustrations from your students. Now, this is by no means easy. We went through several years of trial and error before we feel we got it right. But you can save a lot of time if you adopt our 3-step process to implement this box concept when you're designing your courses. Step 1, explore your ideas and values. What are all the important things that you want your students to put in their box before they close the lid to them? Now, this can be values around the dance. For example, is it social or competitive? Do you value technique and accuracy, or do you want self-actualization and creativity? Whatever that is for you, you want to try to expose your students to those early on. My recommendation is that you start taking notes. Whenever you encounter something about the dance that gives you a lot of joy or a lot of frustration, write that down, take a note, come back to them when you're planning your courses. If you're interested to read more about this, I wrote a book called Set, Implement, and Filter Your Core Values to Grow Your Dance Community. I'll place a link in the video descriptions below. Step 2, externalize your ideas and values. What do you need to see, hear, or experience to say, yes, my students share my values, ideas, and opinions? Especially when it comes to those intangible elements like good quality of movements, musicality, creativity. You need to figure out what would be the external expressions of that would tell you, yes, they're carrying that idea. What would you need to see to say, yes, this person has good quality movements. Yes, this person is very musical. If you figure out that external expression of it, you'll have a lot of material for your classes. Step 3, establish a platform. What would be the simplest starting point for your students to start experiencing your important ideas and values? That could be a simple basic step, that could be an exercise, or other encounters with those ideas and values. To highlight this, I want to share with you 2 examples from our courses. For the first example, step 1, establishing your values, would be we find creativity and improvisation an important aspect of the dance. So step 2, externalizing those ideas and values, would be if we see our students stepping out of the structure, the concept, and the steps and movements that they learn in class, and put in the things they've learned elsewhere or watched in a movie, we can say, yes, that is an expression of creativity or improvisation. Step 3 would be establish a platform. In this case, we wanted to give them a simple way of stepping out of the basic structure, play around with whatever ideas they want, and come back to the basic structure. We could use moves that we call freeze, that is taking a pause in the dance, go and play, and then come back, or breakaway, where we separate, we have a moment of solo dancing. During that moment, you can do whatever you want and then come back. This second example goes like this. Step 1, explore your ideas and values. In our case, we want our students to have appreciation for our history. Step 2, externalize those ideas and values. We feel if our students have a basic understanding about some of our historic idols, they'll place a little bit of that information in their box, and we can come back to that later on. So step 3, establish your platform. This is a variation of an idea that I picked up from my friend Scott Cupid. We created postcards with the faces of our historic idols, and at the end of one of the early classes, we hand one out to each student and say, go and figure out who this is and bring that information back to next class. Now with this example, I wanted to also share with you that not all information needs to happen within class time. You can influence what the students put in their box before they close the lid on it, also by exposing them to things that are important to you outside of the class. You can send an email with important information, share YouTube links that carry messages that you enjoy, or maybe go out for a drink and have a conversation about everything that you feel is important about the dance. And all of these information also will be placed in the box and form their impression about the dance and their experience they're going to have with you. Now we can circle back to that sort of initial question. How can we design classes that are both achievable and generates a long-term cooperation with your students? And the answer to this is use the 3-step process of the box concept and find the simplest expression of your external ideas and values and teach those to your students early on. This is what I would like you to do. Go back to your course material and see what ideas and values make it into your students' box before they put the lid on it. From your students' experience, how are they experiencing their early stages? What are they committing to? Will that be the same as what you want to teach them long term? I would love to hear what you discover from looking at your course material from the lens, from the perspective of this box concept. Maybe you can share in the comment section below or write me an email. I'll share how you can reach me in the video descriptions below. Lastly, if you want to encourage me to keep doing videos like this, I would really appreciate if you click on the subscription button, hit notification, press like, share with other teachers, and let me know what you liked about this video in the comment sections below and perhaps what you want to see next. I hope to see you live or in the next video.